If you are likely over 55 years old and you're thinking about downsizing, going through that process of selling your home and consolidating assets, and what do we do with all the stuff, and do the kids really want to deal with our stuff, and where are we going to move, and what are the financial implications, guys? Today's show could save you, honestly, it could save you tens of thousands of dollars, and maybe more importantly, it could save you just enormous amount of stress.
And I mean,
good morning. This is the St. George Real Estate Morning Drive. I've got Branden Ducharme here with Ducharme Financial. What's up, buddy?
How are you, Jeremy?
Is that the right term, Ducharme Financial?
Ducharme Wealth
Ducharme
Management.
Wealth. Ducharme Wealth.
Ducharme Wealth Management.
Ducharme Wealth Management.
All good.
Jesse Paul, we also let Jesse
morning.
come in the studio this morning.
yeah, they let me in.
Jesse's already been to my house today. I mean, he brought his dog in. This is funny. When I left the house, my 23-year-old daughter lives with me, and he brought his little, Missy is this little Shih Tzu, and then Max is, a 60-pound tripod. And I got ready to leave, and I'm like, where are the dogs? And I look all over, and I go down to Abby's room, and Missy was on Abby's bed, Jesse just chilling. So she has made herself at home. Branden Ducharme here with Ducharme Wealth.
She's in good hands.
Jesse said something yesterday, 2 days ago, and we're really focused today on wealth management, wealth planning, and navigating what it's like for downsizers. But he said, we're cleaning up our house. We spent the weekend, I don't know, tearing things apart and getting rid of it. He said, we're doing it so our kids don't have to. That's what you said. Did you know I made a note of that?
Yep.
And you talk to a lot of people, Branden, who, I said 55 plus because really most downsizers are 55 plus, right?
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
What percentage are 55 plus?
What percentage of downsizers?
Gosh, isn't,
most, probably most all.
Yeah, like 95%.
Yeah,
right?
I would say that's right.
Yeah. This is so funny. I was giving him a bad time before we started the show. He said, I was talking about the stock market yesterday. He said, something about a short squeeze. And I was like, dude, you got to dumb this down. A short squeeze is like, I thought that was a baseball play. Oh, that's a shortstop. I had no idea. Literally, dude, I wasn't actually kidding. I don't know any of that terminology. Okay. I'm a lowly realtor. I might even only be a realtor. All right. Dude, talk to us about, and I have some questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is, why did you get into this? Wealth management and what you do. Like what got you started on this?
I really largely grew up around the business.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in business now with my dad,
Mm-hmm.
and a partner in our family firm.
Yeah.
Which was a heavy lift of a task, but it grew up around the industry, saw that people just didn't have good quality help, good relationships with their financial advisors or people that they worked with.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up so close in seeing the effects of stuff like the .com crash, the 2008 great financial crisis, and seeing the impact that had on people's lives, either positive or negative, and thought, actually, when I was a younger adult, I thought that is so stressful. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Yeah. Like keep me out of there, man.
Yeah. And, it wasn't until I was a little bit later after, I had a career in kind of corporate America, and, at a time actually active duty in the military. And after I came off of that, I thought, I want to do something that's more, I've got purpose in life. And I thought it was an interesting way to build deep relationships with people and help them in a meaningful way. And so that part of the kind of the job and career really excites me. And I'm also a math nerd. So this
is where the short squeeze came in. You know what I mean? So. And I really appreciate that. I met your dad a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
On that Saturday at the phenomenal, what did you guys call it? Blueform podcast symposium. Oh, we call it a symposium. Guys, our show is produced by Blueform Media. We love these people, and they come in our studio, and they even allow us to show up late today. All of us, I think. Well, actually, Jesse's always on time, but they put on that podcasting workshop was fun, and I met your dad, and he's a cool dude. And I think what you said about the wealth management, financial planning, whatever we want to call it, it's very similar to real estate. There are a lot of practitioners in these businesses, right? but but they're not all the same. The services are not equal. And I think you talking about looking at the .com crash is perfect timing for like what's happened in the last week. I saw, it was The Onion. I love it. It was I put it on my story, and it was something along the lines of financial wealth managers, financial planners are encouraging people to definitely panic and like do emergency behaviors. Of course, it was a joke, right? Have you had some people freaking out in the last week, 10 days?
Only 3.
Interesting.
So, that's not bad.
Locally here in St. George, we have about 218 clients.
Yeah, that's a lot of clients. What did you tell those 3 people?
We got to revisit the plan. And there's, we try to talk sensible, we talk math, but also we one of the unique things about us is we are running the probabilities, and we do manage things a lot different. So, we try to take that back to a conversation of the planning side and helping them understand that.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay sort of either way. But you have to just understand that there is a behavioral side of finance and money, and I have an appreciation for that always.
Isn't there, Jesse? What does Ben Kinney say about, he says the best way to be poor is to do what with something that appreciates over time?
Sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that what he says?
Yeah. Yeah. Always keep something that is going to appreciate over time.
Yeah. Ben Kinney is the founder of Place, the company that we're partnered with. He says, if you want to be poor, sell things that go up in value. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's like, and his point is, hold on to things as long as you realistically can for them to mature, right?
Yeah. I think this is probably not the greatest forum for this deep of discussion, but there is an element to understanding like the need for cutting losses and risk management, particularly in environments like this where I think the way that you highlighted it was you want to hold on as long as you can, right?
Yeah, until it doesn't make sense, right?
Right, but ultimately, if you look back at 08 and you look back at the .com crash and some of this stuff, it's very difficult, right? They call it the lost decade after the .com crash, and so avoiding some of those drawdowns sometimes is absolutely the key to success long term. Particularly like if you're invested in things that you are going to need the money in the next 10 years, right? You really have to be sensitive to that idea. And that's where some math and arithmetic comes in and weighing out those probabilities and trying to couple that with a financial plan. But every asset acts different. So you have to understand what you own, why you own it, and have a game plan.
Yeah, this is so good. I really do appreciate that. And if anybody knows about some of my crypto exploits, what I like to do is buy high and sell low. And so, you know what I mean? It's a model for loss. You know what I mean? Like, and the funny part is, I think I said it on the show before, what I sold, I literally bought $10,000 in crypto at one point. I don't know, a couple years ago. I think when I sold it all, it was $2,800 is what I had left. And the comedy is what I was holding in particular. If I look back, it'd be worth like 30 grand today. It's like, well, and I'm not saying it'd be worth $1 million. It was just like, I would have had a lot, but let me shift gears here. Okay. Just a question. Okay. For you, Branden. Sure. So I've got Branden Ducharme here with Ducharme Wealth Management. And this guy's a math nerd, but he said something important about the emotional, psychological, right? You know what I mean? The element of investing. We're talking about downsizers today. Jeremy Larkin here, hosted the St. George Real Estate Morning Drive. And we're the Larkin Group, KW Realty. We're in our headquarters. Jesse, you've worked with some downsizers. I'm going to ask Branden some questions this year.
I have quite a few. Are
there some patterns to what you hear on the real estate side in terms of fears, concerns, a lot of these people you've been working with have been going to assisted care.
Yeah. Yep.
Is there some consistency in their story in almost every case? Like what they're freaked out about? And
yeah. I think one of the biggest ones with the ones that I've been working with is making sure that they have enough money to pay for the facility.
That was not a setup.
Long enough.
Yeah.
Well, I had to think for a second is what is the actual biggest one that I've heard?
Yeah.
And these are people that aren't set for life, right? They are really going, okay, am I going to have enough?
How long can you run it out?
Yeah. How many years can
do I
this?
really want to live that long? Right. Because I might run out of money. And Beth, our client that I sold in Stonebridge recently, I mean, my gosh, I mean, right. We closed here. We'll often bring our clients here and title rep and we'll do the closing here. And she sat right in this office, in this lobby and said, I don't know if I can do this. This was the closing day because she was worried about that aspect. Branden, for you, what do you feel like some of the biggest financial surprises people are that people encounter when they downsize specifically?
I think there's always the transaction cost and the hidden transaction costs. And what I mean by that is I'll use my own experience, right? I moved a lot being in the Army. It's expensive to move, right? Yeah. I'm not talking about the real estate agent fees or the title fees. I'm talking boxes and tape, the days off of work, the cost to rent the truck and go across town or pay the moving company or right. Like, the cost to, sell some of your furniture and then you're buying new furniture. There's some of these things. And so sometimes people that, they want to downsize, but now it's a new house and they're looking to, the decor, update the decor now in the smaller house and all this stuff. And all of a sudden that can be a kind of a big cost.
Listen, this is so, thank you. I love the practicality of this conversation because that's what people are worried about, right? It was weird, funny. I was teasing Branden before I came on. I said, no jargon, right? Because we can get into jargon, all of us in these shows. Because one of the things we've learned, kidding aside, is people are like, just tell me the basics, right? Okay, so hidden, like people don't think about those costs. And I think you're right. Second question, and this is pretty specific, but let's just kind of talk globally. How should somebody plan financially? This is very specific. If they're moving from a paid off home to say like an assisted living facility, do you have that conversation with people? Like, hey, my home's been paid off for 10 years, but now I'm going to move to assisted living, which is on average $5,000 a month. Yeah. Right. What kind of conversation might you have with one of your wealth management clients about that?
One of the things that I always try to remind people first before we get into this conversation is risk in any financial plan or anything. It's always net 100. There's always kind of the same amount of risk. It's like energy. You can't create energy. You can't destroy energy. You can just convert energy. And so it just is, what kind of risk are you most comfortable with and what is most prudent for you? And so if living in your house is not the risk you're comfortable with because your likelihood of having a slip and fall and no one's around to help you out, that might be a riskier thing for you to do or feel, less comfortable with than the risk of not having as much money in the bank or not having a paid off home, whatever it might be. One of the risks in particular with having a home that's paid off versus going into some kind of care facility is the inflationary risk. Okay. And the risk that the cost of being in that facility will go up significantly over time. Whereas if you own a home, that's an asset that is appreciating with the inflation, hopefully. And so even though maybe some of your bills go up with the inflation, you kind of have a different exposure to inflation being that way.
You bet.
And so that's one of the risks that people take on. So if you are going to sell your home and go into a facility like that, you have to have your planning right with when you take your home equity, how are you going to convert your home equity into some kind of investment vehicle or plan that you can use it to pay for that facility on an ongoing basis and feel comfortable with that. Even if the inflation runs hot, you can have a runway that if you have to start drawing down on principal, in addition to the income it produces, that you can run it out to, well beyond your life expectancy.
Yeah. Isn't that so good to think about that, man?
Yeah, that is good.
Jesse, you, dealing with kids. I want to ask Branden about kids, people downsizing and their adult children. Jesse, what's it like because first of all, how many times have we dealt with the adult children selling a home for mom and dad?
I'd say 100.
Right. This is like
over 100 probably. Well, you probably more than that. But.
What are the dynamics on the real estate side? So like Anne, one of my clients, she moved to a local, again, I'm on this care facility thing, but this is kind of a typical thing. She's moved to assisted living, 4 kids involved. One lived in California, 3 lived here. What are the dynamics of that on the real estate side?
So a lot of times you'll have several dynamics. Number one, there's a lot of overprotection, right? Which causes us to not think clearly when we're trying to. It's kind of like a dad overprotecting their kids.
Yeah,
right?
it's like a reverse mama bear. Basically,
the same thing happens when our kids, when we get older, right? The overprotection, so they're not thinking clearly. Then the second thing that happens is all of them have a different opinion that you have to navigate through. The third thing that happens is you've always got one. If you've got 4, you've got one that's doing all the work. So then you've got them all being mad at each other. You're having to get through that.
Yeah.
And we're all trying to get to the same goal, but there's so many different dynamics going on that it's like herding cats sometimes.
Yes. And then there's the money. Branden, you're dealing with, look, we're talking about downsizing in real estate, but we got Branden Ducharme here with Ducharme Wealth, and what's it like? What are the dynamics on your side as a wealth manager when you're like, okay, well, Ted and Betty are selling their home, or maybe one of them's passed away, or maybe they both passed away. You've got 5 adult kids. They all want the money. Like, are these things that occur in your world that are challenging?
We tend to not deal with that a lot because we headed off of the past with good estate planning.
That's what, beautiful. Okay, so talk to me about that.
Estate planning, and I don't want to dive into giving like legal advice, but just from a basic framework. It's about having two. I kind of view it as there's 2 key components. One is having the right legal documents in place, and that's words that people might be familiar with are things like trusts and wills and power of attorneys. And the other part of the framework is making sure that people understand that plan and where to find the documents, right? So communicating with, if you have one kid, your oldest kid is going to be the one that's kind of designated to make these decisions and work with Jesse to sell the home or whatever needs to happen on their behalf. That kid knows, but also the other siblings know, hey, we appointed, you're the oldest sibling to do this, just so you guys all know that we're dead serious about this. We put it in writing. Here it is. And, our financial guy knows, and this is where the documents are. And here's who all of our contacts are for the different professionals we work with. And having all that stuff in place can head off a lot of these family dynamic issues. One of the things that I always tell people is there's kind of a nutty person in every family. And
at least one.
And so what I say is, if you don't know who it is in your family, it's because it's you.
Write that down, you guys. that was the quotable quote of the day. There's one nutty person in every family. If you don't know who it is, it's probably you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah.
Shoot. It's not you. I actually know it's not you.
Look,
Keep going.
There's nothing that destroys family dynamics like involvement of money in major decisions, right? It's one of those things that I've seen it. I have seen some of the wildest stuff and heard some of the craziest stories about how stuff shakes out. And I really am adamant to people that they really try to take some time to put those documents in place, communicate. Think it through. Have good conversations, let the people that they want to work on their behalf know what they're thinking, what their intentions are. Because sometimes in those estate documents, you still have to leave some latitude of discretion for the people that you're trusting to act on your behalf.
You guys seen the movie Knives Out? Gosh, I love that movie.
No.
Oh my gosh. Look, especially you. Jesse won't watch it. He doesn't watch a lot of movies. He might watch it. Dude, you got to go. It's Daniel Craig's in it, but it's basically like it's almost like a modern Clue in a way. But it's about this absolutely deranged, dysfunctional family and the family fortune, and the whole thing is insanely funny. Have you guys seen this, Blake and Mount Knives Out? It's just so good, right? Isn't it what we're talking about? Like, oh my gosh, the crazy, and somebody and dad basically offs himself because the guy's old and sick, and then it's like who done it and where's the money going, and what's happening with the estate. It's very funny. It is. I could watch it 10 times in a row. And so these are the dynamics, and it's interesting. We're talking about downsizing, and downsizing is not always going to an assisted living facility. Right. But here's why I think it often is, Jesse, for us, is what happens, and Branden, tell me if this resonates, but people put off until it's too late. And then they're like, oh crap, now it's a slip and fall. And this is why we end up with, on the real estate side is what I mean. This is why we so often are dealing with people going straight to assisted living versus selling their 4,500 square foot home for a 2,200 square foot home.
Yeah.
Because they put it off, and it's always one day. Like, it's like literally, guys, my laundry. And that's not kidding, although it's funny. My laundry, I effectively wait until the third complete load is done. And then I go, oh crap. So I sit down and I watch a movie and fold laundry for an hour and a half. But that's, people kick the can down the road. We'll do it this weekend. We'll do it next month. We'll do it later. And then to your point, Jesse, you said, we're getting rid of our stuff so our kids don't have to. You know what your adult kids don't want? If you're listening in our show, Jeremy, Larkin, Jesse Paul, we specialize with working with a lot of downsizers, a lot of empty nesters. We've got Branden Ducharme with us. I know you love your things, your belongings. Yeah. Your kids don't want them.
So to clarify, I said she is. I'm just doing what I'm told.
I know you are, and you're very good that way. But kids don't want to deal with that. And what happens is we typically see, like a couple of these I just talked about, they go through the house, and what it does, if you're someone thinking about this, looking ahead, listening to our show, I want you to, this is going to be painful, but I want you to envision that you've, say, passed away. And now the kids are going through all of the junk, and it's really dirty, and they're feeling really raw because mom or dad died. And now the emotions, I've watched this play out, are 10 times worse because they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they left all this stuff. And then there's all these memories and it's dredging up stuff. And so I love what Branden said about the financial planning documents. The number one way to avoid a problem with your adult children and money is put that will and trust in place on the front end, right? And you're not an attorney, seek legal counsel, blah, blah, blah. But like we tell people, if they're thinking of downsizing, 1 year out is definitely not too early.
To start thinking about
to
it.
Really, like I'm talking like legitimately plan. I'm not talking about, hey, one day will. I'm saying if you're really thinking, well, 1 year out's not too soon.
1 year is typically the time frame that I find it takes for people to get their stuff organized financially and kind of cleaned up. It's typically at least a 1 year process, sometimes more. It's a huge emotional lift to organize your finances if you're not really dialed in already.
Oh my gosh.
And so we tend to break that down for people between
2 minutes. Perfect.
12 and 18 months, really, where there's so many steps to figure out and do it. And no one wants to like deal with, hey, here's 37 things you need to work on right now and deal with from a financial perspective in your life.
On top of navigating just all the emotions of what you're going through.
Yeah, to get to the answer of should I downsize right now or not, right? So it takes time to really organize and clean that up way ahead of time.
Yeah, this has been so good. Branden, if people want to reach out to you, which some will for sure, I think you should, how would they contact you?
Ducharmewealth.com.
Okay.
Great place.
Ducharme. It's French, right? Or something like that. Yeah. Ducharmewealth.com.
Yep. We're on all the social medias, or you can stop right in at our office downtown, 50 East, 100 South, downtown St. George. Right
Sweet 300. It was formerly our office. He actually bought some. Speaking of selling furniture, I sold it to you for pennies. That's what used furniture is. This is another one of the dynamics of downsizing. Yeah. Hey, we'll get a bunch of money for our furniture. Actually, you won't. Yeah. Branden, thank you so much for. Honestly, dude, you dropped some really good little nuggets for our listeners. Visit us at gostgeorge.com, gostgeorge.com. Google the Larkin Group. I actually have created. I'm waiting on like the final proof of a downsizing guide. It's not a financial guide per se, but it's a real estate downsizing guide called the Legacy Living Blueprint. It was the cutest name I could come up with. And it really walks through what the emotional realities are when you get ready to do this kind of thing. Jeremy Larkin, Jesse Paul, Branden Ducharme, over and out.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.